Alright guys, here we are, back at it again. You've seen the title, you've seen what we're doing today. What we're going to do, I've got the Savage model 87A out here, and you see it's got a slight crack in the stock right here. This is very common for these rifles. Just about all these old Savages, and almost all of them you see will have a crack of some sort in here. They're notorious for cracking on both sides right here. And this one is no exception. So what I've done a couple of steps here to speed this video up, keep it short and sweet. Is got the crack here, and it's very tight, so it does not come apart very well or very easily. So what I've done is I've drilled a hole down the stock, as you can see here. We've got quite a bit of wood to work with here, so that's good. So I've drilled a hole down through there, and I believe it was 5/32 drill bit I used. But what I did, took these little wooden pins here, I ground it down on the bench grinder to this, nice and skinny here, because we don't want to use this big fat one. So you can use wooden dowels and whatever you know, wooden dowels. I've seen people using copper rods and screws and stuff, and it's best to do this with wood, because when we glue this in here with the wood glue, this pin will expand in there with that glue, and that'll tighten everything up. So as you see, I've already spread the crack apart and rubbed some glue in there to get glue in the crack. So we've got glue in the crack, and when we get done with all this, we will end up clamping it together till the glue dries. You can use epoxy, those two-part epoxies. I've seen people using those, and you can do that. That's fine. This crack's not that bad, so this wood glue and this pin will do just perfect. If this crack was any worse, I would probably at least put two more, or at least two pins in it. But what you do before we get here into gluing this, I'm going to show you how to get this hole drilled in here. And it's good if you got like a drill press, but I've got a drill press, but I just use a drill. Right here on the ledge here, as you can see, it's angled. What I did, I start right here with the drill. I start horizontally here, and I just start slowly and I drill in just a little bit to get me a ledge right there, so I can push down on it. So I push in a little bit to get a ledge right here, and then I slowly turn my drill bit up and go down with it. That way, when I'm starting horizontally here, I'm giving myself a ledge to set the edge of this drill bit on, so it don't slide off. So you just drill in a little bit, and you want to mark your drill bit with a piece of tape or whatever, and you want to see how deep you want to go. And you mark your drill bit, that way you don't come out the bottom of your stock. So after you put your ledge on there horizontally, put your drill bit vertically and go down. I went down at an angle. Let's see if I can get the camera here. Okay, I just drilled straight down to my mark, where I had my mark on the drill bit. There goes the dogs barking. Anyways, and that way you don't go, like I said, you don't go out the stock when you got your drill bit marked. And this pin, I found the right drill bit to fit this pin that I made. This pin will go straight down in there, and we'll tap it down in there with a punch. But it'll go all the way down in there. Sometimes you may not be able to get deep enough, and you'll have some pins sticking out. You'll just have to cut that off and then sand it to whatever angle, or you may need to just sand it flat. But if you've got an angle like this, you still got some pin sticking out, you just cut that off with like a razor knife, coping saw, whatever you got. Cut that off, and then take a like a pen or a pencil, wrap you some sandpaper around it. So I got some sandpaper. Wrap your sandpaper around this so you'll have a round edge here. Or not an edge, but you'll have something round here. And if this pin was still sticking out, which it won't be, but if it was, I'll just sand back and forth there, and I'll have that angle cut down in there on the top of that pin. So that's how you do that, if you understand what I just said. What I'm saying is we've got an angle here, and that round piece of wood right there will sandpaper on it, it'll sand down, and it'll keep the same angle on it. We won't have to worry about that because I've got this deep enough where this will go all the way down, and I'm going to leave just the top of it sticking out so I don't have a gap right here, and I probably will sand a little bit off of it, but it won't be much. Anyways, let's get our glue out. Enough yakking. I'm just using this Elmer's Carpenter's glue. This is actually for dark wood, so that's helping us out. Gonna get some glue out here. Like I said, I've already got it. I've spread this crack apart a little bit with my knife, and I've took my finger and just smushed some glue inside that crack, so that crack is glued when we clamp it down. And we'll have the crack glued, and we'll have a pin holding it together. So I'll take this little drill bit here. We'll get some glue on our stick it down in the hole. Like I said, this glue will make that pin expand a little bit, and that'll tighten everything up in there. It dries. It's always best to use wooden pins. And depending on what kind of gun stock you got, you may just have to cut something into the side. If you don't have enough room to drill a hole, you may just have to cut a notch into the side with a drill bit or something, and just tap your pin in, and you'll still see it, but it'll be in there. Willie, dogs are barking. Okay, I believe we've got enough glue in there. We'll get the glue on here. There we go. It's in there getting tight, that's what we want. Let's barely tap this down in. I left just a little bit of that sticking out right there. We'll sand that down. Oh, we don't have a hole right here in our stock. Just rub it in here some more. This stock was made in, the gun was made and manufactured in 1948, so that's how old the stock is. I also refinished it. If you went back to that other video of when I scored I think it scored 22 rifles or something like that. This is the Savage Model 87A, and I stripped the old finish on it and put some early American stain on it. Repainted the front of it. That's original. That's how they originally come from the factory. So what we're going to do now, we've got the pin in there, is we're just going to put our stock on here, or clamp on the stock. Talk today. Just tighten it up just a little bit, not super tight. These are rubber ends on here, so we won't have to put any rag or anything on there, so it won't hurt the wood. We're just going to barely close it. Make sure some glue is squeezing out on the inside here. There we go, that's all we want right there. We don't want much. Can't even hardly see that crack in there. You can still see a little bit of it right here, but there we go. Now what I'll do is I'll just let that dry. And then, like I said, I'll sand that top of it off. Sandpaper on the... There's just a rounded surface here. I'll just go right across that ledge right there and knock the corner off the top of that pin. Alright guys, I just wanted to do that little video. Nothing special. So